Hey, what's up, guys? It's CalebX01, and thank you for joining me again for another episode in my ranked series. Today's franchise that I'll be ranking from my least favorite to favorite film in the series is, of course, the Child's Play franchise. That's why I'm rocking my Chucky shirt, even though that font's a little hard to see. If you watched my latest collection update, you would have seen me show off this shirt. I already have a handful of Child's Play shirts, probably way too many, but what I liked about this one in particular, actually, is it has all of the films in the franchise on the back, including the remake, and it also has their release date, so I just thought that was really cool. Hopefully I showed that off well. It's obviously hard to see what I'm doing when I'm facing the other direction, but yes, the Child's Play franchise. One of my personal favourite horror franchises, even though I'm very aware that the franchise, especially later on in the series, became a little bit inconsistent. I still just have tons of fun with majority of these movies. What that comes down to is also a bit of nostalgia. I grew up watching these films all the time, and honestly I still revisit a lot of them quite often still, so definitely a soft spot in my heart, even though, as I said, maybe compared to some of the other franchises, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, whatever else you want to throw in there, maybe a little bit less consistent, but as I said, I just love this franchise. Even Chucky, he's probably in my top three, if not my number one horror icon. He's got the charisma, great voice acting from Brad Dourif, and he's menacing still, especially in the earlier films, but, he has that mystique about him, that charisma, a little creepy still, definitely one of my favourite horror icons, but I'm super excited to get into this episode of Ranked. Of course, as I said, I've got all of the 8 films in the franchise, starting with the original from '88 to the remake that I believe came out in 2019. But I'm super excited to get into it. Helping me with my ranking episode today is my Chucky doll. Let's see if he's going to speak. Hopefully that worked, but he's going to sit here with me. So as I said, 8 films to get through. If you know this series, I start with my least favourite in the franchise, going all the way to my number one. So 8 films to get into. Let's start off this list now. So starting off my list and coming in at my number 8, I'm sure is no surprise to anybody, but I have Seed of Chucky, part of this 3-disc set. I am not one of those people that hate the later films because they go with this more light-hearted approach. They have this satire and this humour about them. And I'm not against that. It's a killer doll, for fuck's sake, so it's not completely off the table. However, I just feel like Seed of Chucky completely falls flat on its face. The humour that it attempts, it's just not funny. The story, I completely don't give a shit about. I mean, Glenn as a character, fucking makes my skin crawl, is just annoying, and I don't give a shit about him. Honestly, there's a few times in this movie where I chuckle, but not because of the writing or the humour put in there. I just find it completely stupid, and I go, why the fuck am I watching this? Honestly, I've probably seen this movie too many times. It honestly is pretty close to unwatchable, but Seed of Chucky coming in at my number 8, quite a bad film. But moving on, coming in at my number 7 is Cult of Chucky. Now, I remember when this movie first came out and I had a bit of buzz about it. However, what I was hearing was a lot of people were sort of split down the middle. It was either you really loved it or you really fucking hated it. And when I watched it, I found myself sort of in the middle. I'm like, wasn't bad, could have been better, but it wasn't complete garbage. I liked the mental institution location. I thought that was pretty cool. However, there's some things that just really didn't work in this movie. A lot of elements that just didn't click with me. And as I said, when I was watching it, I thought it was decent. However, I have not watched this movie since it first came out. I've seen this movie once, and I really don't have any desire to revisit it, if I'm being completely honest. So having it any higher on my list, I think, would just be really unfair, and obviously having no real drive to come back and watch it, it's not completely memorable to me. So coming in at my number 7 is Cult of Chucky. Now moving on to my number 6, with a film in the franchise that I definitely feel like is a fan favourite, and it's one that's grown on me more so over time, and that is Bride of Chucky. Now this is the one where the movie sort of became more self-aware and had the more satirical sort of vibes about it. And when I was younger, I was not a big fan of this one, and the more light-hearted approach, but the older I got, the more I accepted these later films. But what I really love about this one is the 90s feel of it, the 90s charm. I love that. The humor in this one is definitely not too over the top like what they're doing with Seed of Chucky. It's still not a home run, but it's definitely more likable. Tiffany is a great addition. This is like the only film in the franchise that I really like Tiffany. In some of the later films and her inclusions, I'm not a big fan, but in this one, she's very welcome. I love the banter between the two. The kills in this one are a lot of fun. As I said, this is one that has grown on me definitely over time. Yeah, definitely the biggest improvement between any of the films in the franchise, and this is sort of the one, and from here on is where I actually really genuinely like these films going forward. So coming in at my number 6 is Bride of Chucky. Alright, let's have a little break. Let's see what Chucky has to say.
True classic never goes out of style.
A true classic never goes out of style. Well, that doesn't really set up my number 5, because coming in at my number 5 is the Child's Play remake. Now, a lot of people really liked this one when it came out, and don't get me wrong, I didn't not like this one. Honestly, I actually really like the first 2 acts of this one, and the new approach they go with the Chucky doll and the story that it's telling. I actually really enjoy it. Where this one sort of falls apart with me is the 3rd act. I'm not a fan of the 3rd act at all. You know, if it sort of carried the momentum that the first 2 acts had, this movie would be really fucking good, but not a huge fan of the final act. But as I said, I like the new approach that they go with on the storyline. I like Mark Hamill's voice of Chucky in this one. You know, it's something a little bit different. But overall, this movie isn't actually too bad. It's not that bad of a remake. However, just compared to some of the other films in the franchise, not quite a home run, but coming in at my number 5 is the Child's Play remake. So the next film on my list, coming in at my number 4 spot, is one I'd describe as a bit of a dark horse, honestly. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this one, but obviously I have it quite high on my list and I really enjoy this one. It's one of the later films in the franchise, and that is Curse of Chucky. Now, if you haven't seen this one, I think you would be quite surprised by it. It's the follow-up to Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, and as I said, both of those films have this more satirical approach and self-aware humour. This one is played a lot more straightforward. It's darker, has this more simple approach which works in its favour. It's definitely a smaller scale film, but this movie, when I first seen it, fucking blew my shit up. It really surprised me, caught me off guard with how much I really liked it. Honestly, I haven't watched it in a while, and the last few times I've seen it, it's gone down a little bit in its rating, but still so fucking good. A lot of fun. As I said, really refreshing just after 2 films that don't really take themselves too seriously, which, as I said, Bride of Chucky I don't really mind, Seed of Chucky I hate. This one I was really nervous about checking out, but I fucking loved it. I think I seen it the year it came out, but honestly, it's one I do try and come back to more often. As I said, I haven't seen this one in a little while, but you know, it's definitely one in the later half of the franchise that I don't mind coming back to. So, Curse of Chucky coming in at my number 4. Alright. Now, moving on to my number 3. Chucky should have said, true classics never go out of style for this one. I have the OG. I know a lot of die-hard Child's Play fans are going to be like, what the fuck, it's not number 1. Again, compared to some of the sequels, it's definitely more simple. It's the darkest of the Child's Play films. It's played pretty straightforward. But man, this movie is so much fun. It really is a classic. I don't really have too much to say about this one because I'm sure everyone has seen this one. I mean, it created a horror icon with Chucky. This film is a classic. And it feels a bit weird having it at number 3, honestly, but obviously I have 2 films that I prefer over this one, so I'm going to keep this one short and sharp. Coming in at my number 3 is the OG Child's Play. Now, my final 2 movies are both part of this 3-disc set, so it's going to be a little bit awkward holding this up for both, but coming in at my number 2 spot is Child's Play 3. Now, I don't understand people that don't like Child's Play 3, because this is arguably the most fun film in the whole franchise. I really like the army/cadet training facility as the location. I just think that is fucking awesome. So many likable characters in this one also. A character that makes me laugh every time I watch it, besides Chucky, obviously, because he's really fucking funny in this one as well, is like the guy that's obsessed with shaving people's heads. Oh, fuck, he's funny. Also really like Tyler as a character. When Chucky decides to start going after Tyler instead of Andy, and he's like, Chucky's gonna be a brother because he's going after the black kid. I think that's so funny. Yeah, this movie is so fun. As I said, the setting's great, the characters are great. Chucky's really funny in this one, but also he's still menacing. The setting, as I said, is awesome. And then the fucking final act takes place in like a carnival, like awesome. I think just Child's Play 3 is a smash, and I don't understand people that don't like it. I just think it's awesome. But moving on to my number one, if you know me, it's no surprise. Child's Play 2, arguably one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I love Child's Play 2. I think it's just the perfect Child's Play film. It mixes light-hearted humour with genuine scares, genuine suspense and thrills. I just think it's the perfect movie. Chucky is awesome, great one-liners, great kills, one of the best final acts in horror history in my opinion. I just love the final act in that Good Guy's Warehouse. I just think it's awesome. So coming in at my number one is Child's Play 2. I just really fucking love that movie. So let's recap, guys, and go back through my ranking. So coming in at my last place was Seed of Chucky, which, as I said, I don't think a lot of people are going to argue with me because that movie, I think, is like universally not loved. But then I have Cult of Chucky, which, as I said, when I first watched it, I thought it was decent, but I've had no real drive to revisit it, so that was my number 7. Coming in at my number 6 was Bride of Chucky, one that's grown on me over time. And as I said, this was the start of my list where I really started to enjoy the films more. My number 5, the remake. I understand people who do enjoy this remake. As I said, I really like the first 2 acts. But where it really falls apart for me is the third and the closing. I just think it's trash. But as I said, the Dark Horse, Curse of Chucky. You know, if you checked out after Bride and Seed, I mean, I can't blame you because they have this more light-hearted approach, especially after Seed. If you checked out of the franchise, you know, give it a chance because Curse of Chucky is like genuinely fucking good. As I said, more simple, darker approach, but works well. Coming in at number 3, as I said, felt a bit weird to have it this low, but the OG, I mean, you can't have a problem with the classic. Let's see if I can get him to say it.
A true classic never goes out of style.
That's right, a true classic never goes out of style. Child's Play, the OG, amazing. My number 2 was Child's Play 3, and then my number 1, Child's Play 2. So thank you for joining me again, guys, in my ranked series. Hopefully you guys like this kind of content when I change it up from a random horror review or whatever else I'm doing. And also let me know, guys, on your thoughts of the Child's Play franchise in the comments below, or if you just want to talk about a particular film, feel free to drop a comment. But yeah, thank you for joining me again, guys. I really enjoyed going through the Child's Play franchise with you. As I said, definitely a franchise that has a soft spot in my heart. I have tons of nostalgia with this, but thank you again for joining me, guys, and I'll leave you with a classic Chucky quote.